Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm Bettina Lawton and I'm your host. And today we are going to talk the 2019 elections. They are a big deal here and actually pretty much a big deal in all of Virginia. Lots of people are up and running, and we've got four fabulous candidates tonight that I want to introduce you to. The first is James Walkinshaw. He was born and raised in Northern Virginia and has devoted his career to ensuring that our community remains a great place to live, work, and raise a family. During his 12 years of service as an advisor to Jerry Connolly, James has worked to deliver results for Northern Virginians on a wide range of issues. James serves as a mentor to at-risk youth through Fairfax County's Befriend a Child program, a member of Fairfax County's Domestic Violence Prevention Council, on the board of the Ravenswoods Farm Civic Association, which is a mouthful, and as a volunteer with the Friends of Lake Accotink Park. James and his wife Yvette live in the Ravensworth Farm neighborhood of Braddock District. So welcome, James.
Thanks, Bettina. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could be here, and I know you've lived in Braddock, and obviously you and your wife have settled there, but you got a good job. Why do you want to be supervisor of Braddock District?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in the 12 years I've spent as an advisor to Jerry Connolly, I've had a chance really to see the value and impact of local government. And it really is the level of government where there's accountability and you have to get things done and get results. And that is really exciting to me. In Braddock District, one of the reasons I decided to run is because we have some big challenges coming at us, exciting challenges. We have a Braddock Road improvement project that we need to get funded and completed. We have a Lake Accotink, that needs saving, and we can talk about that more later. We have the oldest rec center in Fairfax County, the Audrey Moore Rec Center, that needs to be rebuilt. So we have a lot of big challenges in Braddock District, and I think I'm the candidate who has both the experience and the energy to tackle those challenges.
So how did you end up with so many big challenges? Because when you talk about road improvements, I think of Providence or the problems with Route 7 or those kinds of things. Braddock has kind of been on the down low. Why are all these things accumulating?
Yeah, well, Braddock has traditionally been maybe a bit sleepier relative to the other districts. Braddock is predominantly made up of single-family home neighborhoods, established neighborhoods, wonderful neighborhoods. We haven't had the big issues of large developments and big land use battles in Braddock District. But the people who live in Braddock District are commuting. And most of us, myself included, are commuting on Braddock Road. And that's a tough commute on Braddock Road. And I support improving Braddock Road without widening it. We don't want to encroach on our neighborhoods, but we need to make improvements through that corridor so people can get to work.
How do you do that without widening it? Isn't that sort of the standard solution that everybody comes to is, let's take this little 2-lane road, or in Braddock's case, some of it's like 4 lanes already,
right,
and widen. If you're not going to widen, what are the ideas?
Yeah, well, I think increasingly people across the region are recognizing that widening roads doesn't really solve traffic problems, at least not for long. So there's a good plan that a task force of citizens put together that would improve 17 interchanges between Ravensworth inside the Beltway and Guinea Road outside the Beltway, spot improvements, adding turn lanes, cleaning up some of the intersections. Also, and this is key for me, adding pedestrian/bike paths on both sides of Braddock Road. Right now we have kind of the classic Fairfax County situation of sidewalks that stop and start and inadequate bike and pedestrian paths. So I think if we do those things, we can get some cars off the road and get people moving.
Can people actually, is Braddock a walkable district though? When you talk about sidewalks, although that annoys the heck out of me when you think you're going someplace and all of a sudden, there's a gully or something. Where would you walk to in Braddock if you made those improvements?
Yeah, well, I think it can be a walkable place in some areas, and one of the items that's on the table is adding pedestrian overpasses over Braddock Road to make it easier for people to get from their neighborhoods to shopping centers, from their neighborhoods to bus stops and that kind of thing. So I think we can make a lot of improvements there.
Braddock is scary I mean, it's wide enough, and the
Yeah.
cars are always going really fast.
Sure.
So overpasses would be really ideal over
Yep.
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
would be. So you mentioned Lake Akatik. So what's the
Yeah.
problem with Lake Akatik?
Yeah, so, I think like a lot of people who live in our area of the Braddock district near Ravensworth Farm and North Springfield and Danbury Forest, one of the reasons my wife and I chose our neighborhood was because it's close to Lake Akatik, which is a wonderful community county asset. Unfortunately, the issue is that the lake is filling up. It's filling up with sediment that comes from erosion down Akating Creek and eventually settles into that lake. And if we do nothing, in 6-7 years from now, the lake that's now 3 to 4 feet deep will be 0 feet deep.
That's pretty shallow for a lake.
Yeah, and it's been as deep as 20 feet, but it continues to fill up with sediment. So, a group of us in our area have been working for more than a year on an effort to save Lake Akating. And I think we made a lot of progress in convincing the Park Authority that this lake is such a valuable community asset that it deserves saving, and they're exploring ways to do that. And, I think for me, we should save Lake Akating, not for me, because I live there, but I really see it as an equity issue, because Lake Akating is the only lakefront park in Fairfax County that's accessible to underserved communities in and around the Beltway. So I work with kids in Culmore, and they live less than a mile from Lake Barcroft. But they'll never they won't get to fish at Lake Barcroft or paddle a canoe or even walk around the lake and enjoy it. But Lake Akating is for everyone. Everyone gets to enjoy it. So I'm really passionate about making sure that we save it.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, because sort of in the same line in terms of the environmental stuff, there was an initiative that was passed by the Board of Supervisors, I think last month.
Yeah.
Fairfax Green Initiatives or some such thing, a whole series of steps they want to have taken. And it's all designed to get to sort of a carbon neutral position for the county government.
Yeah.
So is that something you support? How active do you want to be in that kind of area?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, frankly, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to run for this job is I think there's so much more we can be doing there. And we have a great groundwork that has been laid with Jerry Connolly's Cool Counties initiative, with the operational energy strategy that the board passed in 2016, but we need to go to the next level. When I was born right here in Northern Virginia in 1982, there were 18 days per year where the temperature was 90 degrees or above.
Is that all?
Yep,
Oh my
and now
word.
today we have 30 plus days a year where
Oh,
the temperature is 90 degrees or above. So you can see the dramatic change just in my lifetime. And we know from the UN IPCC that we have 12 years, really less than 12 years now, to do something dramatic about our carbon emissions globally. If we want to stay at a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperatures and have a chance of a planet that my grandkids can live on. So I'm very excited about these initiatives, and I think we can do it, but not only can we do it, we must do it.
So what do we do? Because I read somewhere that the county accounts for like 3% of the emissions. So there has to be some kind of an outreach or something that goes on to the community about that.
Sure. Well, I think and the 3% number is absolutely right, and there's two ways to look at that. We could say 3% is not a lot, or we could say 3% is the equivalent of a large corporation. And if the county government can get to carbon neutral, we send a message to other county governments, other local governments, and the private sector. So I think first we got to get our own house in order.
True.
Then we can go to the private sector and other governments and say, you guys need to do it too. But absolutely right, we need a community action plan to put pressure on the private sector to help homeowners who want to have solar panels on their roof and other energy efficiency and renewable projects. We have to do all those things.
So what about jobs?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that excites me about the concept of the Green New Deal and why, I signed on very early to the Virginia Green New Deal, because I think it explodes the Republican myth that we have to have a trade-off between protecting our environment, combating climate change, and economic growth. It's actually the opposite. If we do these things, I think we in Fairfax County can lead the way to a clean energy economy and create good-paying jobs. And if we can do it here, we'll show other parts of the country they can do it too.
Well, we always call ourselves a leader in all sorts
That's
of new
right.
and innovative
That's right.
things, so that all works. Let me ask you one other thing. I know you were at, there was an affordable housing community forum or something the other day that you were at. So any ideas on maintaining that? Where are we going to end on that?
Sure. So, you know, a couple of statistics. In the Braddock district, in order to be able to comfortably afford the average one-bedroom apartment, you need to earn $64,000 a year. And we know through county data and census data that there are tens of thousands of people who are not earning $64,000 a year. So they're struggling to afford housing in Braddock district. So we had a great community forum last week, a lot of wonderful ideas. You know, a couple of things that I want to do. I want to restore or expand the Penny for Affordable Housing Fund that Jerry Connolly started when he was chairman of the Board of Supervisors. We need to continue and frankly enhance our efforts to preserve existing affordable housing stock and acquire new affordable housing stock. So, I mean, that is a really important issue for Braddock District and the entire county moving forward.
Well, I think one of the things people don't realize is the impact the cost of housing here has on our public safety. Because we have a lot of people in law enforcement, for example, and firefighters who they can't afford to live here. So if there's an emergency, we have to allow for how much time do they need to get here from what other county or state in some case. So it really is a bigger issue than just what some people think about who gets to live here.
Absolutely, and you know, I think people have an image of affordable housing that it's all Section 8 housing, and that's a piece of it, an important piece of it. But a big piece of what we need to do in Fairfax County is workforce housing for police officers and firefighters and teachers. And we have a great facility, residences at Government Center, which was county-owned property that we took and made into affordable and workforce housing. And that's a great model that we can look at moving forward.
Okay. Any other huge issue? We got 45 seconds. So if there's one other issue and I haven't covered something.
Yeah, I mean, the other big issue is potholes. You know, especially right now in the winter, I've been talking to a lot of folks who are upset about massive potholes, especially on Braddock Road. And as we know, the maintenance of the roads is a state responsibility, but certainly as supervisor, I will be an advocate banging on the door of VDOT and making sure we get those potholes taken care of.
All right. Well, tell us how to get a hold of you. How can people contact you or your campaign?
Yeah, so please go to www.jameswalkinshaw.org. You can sign up there for the email list.
All right. Stay with us. We will be right back on elections.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
I got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. Better than ones get on. Very sad no more love that I can do was remember you. You know I usually say no, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I
Right?
mean, like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you...
we're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton, and I'm your host. And we are talking about elections. We're particularly talking about the primary elections, which are coming up on June 11th. There are some very contested races. One of them is for the Providence District Supervisor. And we have with us Phil Niedzielski Eichner, who has lived in Fairfax County since 1988. He's running to be the District Supervisor. He has served on the Fairfax County School Board, the Park Authority Board, the Ad Hoc Police Practices Review Commission, and he's currently serving on the Planning Commission. Phil has also worked in the Obama administration in national security positions, ultimately becoming the Chief of Staff to the Chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. A graduate of John Carroll University, as well as Ohio State University, Phil holds a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and a Master's of Public Administration. His graduate work focused on urban planning and governance. Phil started his career in local government, working for the city of Columbus, Ohio, and he's been a couple other places as well. So welcome, Phil.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you. So, Providence Supervisor,
Yes.
Why do you want to do it? You've done all these other things. Isn't it time to sit back and relax?
It is somewhat of a natural extension of all the work I've done for the community and within the community. If you think about soccer, county council PTAs, my training as an urban planner, I've kind of come full circle. And so this interest in the Board of Supervisors is driven predominantly because of the needs that I believe exist for 2020. We're going to have 5 new board members, 1 new chairman. My belief is, particularly relevant to Providence District, is we need to have someone with the depth and breadth of experience that I have to hit the ground running and be able to help make that transition to that new board.
Well, I think you make a really good point. There's going to be a huge turnover. And you've certainly served in a bunch of different varieties, big varieties. We're being on the school boards. The school system is more than half of the county budget. The Planning Commission, of course, is all about development. And in Providence District, you've got a few, I think. I think you've got Tyson's, you did the Merrifield Mosaic District. Innova is coming in with their complex or expanding their complex, all within the Providence boundary. I mean, aren't you about done?
No, actually, there's still quite a bit that's possible at Tyson's. Merrifield is almost built out. Innova is a new initiative, exciting initiative, if we can do it well, if we can make sure that the impacts of that new project can be addressed within the infrastructure. So it's not that it's built out yet, it's just how we manage the growth in a way that allows for the infrastructure to be able to follow with the development. And if I'm here at once at the doors when I walk the neighborhoods, I hear it twice, 1,000 times. It's, we have too much traffic, we have too many potholes. People are concerned about those very fundamental things. Well, development has to be sensitive to the needs of the neighborhoods, making sure that we don't, because of the development, cause people too much impact on their quality of life.
Well, and Providence is actually very diverse, because while I think a lot of us think of places like the Mosaic or Tyson's or whatever, you've got huge sections that are just residential neighborhoods over in your Mantua section in those areas of Providence.
Sure.
So you've really got a lot of variety of what you've got to respond to.
Right, and so the art of this is how do we concentrate our development in areas around the kind of transit-oriented development, and those places where we can get people out of their cars and into rapid transit or some type of a connector. That's in the long term. But yeah, we have to promote development because that's jobs, that's the economic base of the county, that's the tax base, it's it's commercial. 30% of Providence District is commercial. Wow. 30% of the value of Providence District property is commercial. So we want to have that. But we also have very old, stable neighborhoods. You mentioned Mantua. There's Holmes Run, just south of Innova. There's Green Springs. There's just so they're all. We want to make sure that we have development, but we also protect the older neighborhoods.
Okay, so is that the sort of smart growth kind of theory?
bet.
Is that what people talk about?
You bet. You have to be, and, you know, I have to give my predecessors on the Planning Commission, the leadership of Jerry Connolly, Linda Smith, there's a comprehensive plan for Tysons that actually is well crafted, and it's very focused on these metro stations, putting our density there so that people are living, working, playing there, and don't feel a need to get in their cars, and that'll save the neighborhoods, the traffic driving through them. That's the long range plan.
Well, certainly when I go through Tysons, I'm amazed at the size of some of those buildings going up,
Yeah.
and I understand. Someone told me there's a performing arts center going to be slotted into one of those buildings
You bet.
to really try and make it not a place that empties out at night. You don't want it to end up the way certainly Roslyn was in the old days, where people would go there and work and then they left.
You bet. Yeah, and it's exciting, actually. You look at Capital One, you look at the borough, there's a couple major developments that we're reviewing right now that will incorporate all this activity. So mixed-use development, the arts, you know, grocery stores, those things that people value, the restaurants. It'll be a very livable, enjoyable community. What we have to do is make sure we do it well.
Right.
And part of the challenge here is that infrastructure always follows development. It has to follow development. I want to close the gap between the time when development occurs and the infrastructure that follows. So the streets need to be in place more quickly. Sidewalks, we have to have sidewalks, particularly in the urban centers, that actually connect to each other. We need street lighting. Those are things that we should be giving more attention to, and we should be closing the gap between the development itself and the actual infrastructure to support it. Schools are another example.
Well, and I was just going to ask you that. I mean, what impact does it have on the schools in the Providence district to have these new big condo buildings going up and all of this kind of redevelopment where you're trying to do mixed use, but there may not have been a school there, or the school is full? Are there plans on the board to handle that in the Providence district? I know that's sort of a school board thing, but I assume the supervisor's got to be on top of that as well.
Yeah, you know, yes, and from my experience on the school board, and I chaired one of those years, what we know is the infrastructure is not fully utilized. It's overutilized in some places, and underutilized in other places, and so there are some boundary solutions that are part of the.
Isn't that the evil word, boundary solutions?
It's called the third rail.
It is the third rail. People get very upset, Bill.
But you know, on a very practical level, we have a shortage of the amount of money available for bond money available for renovations and for new schools. So with that shortage, we have to make sure we optimize the use of it. And that means that we have to assure the citizens when we do bond referendums that the facilities that we do have are fully utilized. And we have to assure the parents whose kids are in trailers that at some point those trailers are going to be moved off campus and we'll have enough space inside the school for them.
So that's a theory. I remember when my kids went to Madison.
Yes.
And they were 4 years in, and then the next one went. So it's 8-year span.
Right.
There were trailers all the time, and Madison was like under constant renovation.
Right.
The trailers are still there. I mean, I'm not sure we ever do really catch up, but there has to be a way of addressing it because it's not good.
Well, so Madison's up for renovation, and they'll have an addition as a consequence of that. But
well, I want to raise something, and it does affect the school system, and the county is sort of getting on it with this initiative they're calling One Fairfax, which has to do with the diversity and this concept of that there are two Fairfaxes. The people who are doing well and are here, and then the folks, we've got a lot of Title I schools, a lot of Title I students. What do you think of that? I mean, I've heard mixed reviews of it.
Well, first of all, we have it. It's a policy. And the first step is always policy, because what happens then is that policy flows down through the staff, so the county executive is then obligated to execute the board's policy. I don't know whether the board has this as part of the county executive's performance review, but I'm guessing it probably is.
Yeah, I would think so.
And so then that flows down to his deputies and then throughout the organization. And I have complete confidence that as a policy, it will flow down to all the places where it needs to flow down. but we also have to be able to measure. So those things that are measured get done. And I'm told that there are metrics that are being put in place or are in place that will measure our ability, whether we're in fact accomplishing what we set out to accomplish with that policy.
Well, and it is a fairly new policy in all fairness, so they probably.
But I would say
working
it's
things
an
out.
important policy. I mean, 6% of Providence district is people live in poverty. 6%, and the schools that, and I have the highest regard for the schools and their efforts to try to work with children who go home to poverty. But it's a constant challenge, and I believe that the One Fairfax policy is also the policy of the board, school board, and so that flows down through the superintendent. And the expectations have to be high.
Right, they do. Well, let me ask you about a different initiative
Yes.
that passed. I ask everybody about this. I understand the millennials are all interested in the climate change issue and the Fairfax Green Initiatives, which we just adopted, and apparently we're going to switch out all of our street lamps and all of this kind of stuff. How on board are you on that? I mean, you've been doing urban planning forever. You obviously were involved in the nuclear industry, which is always controversial.
Yes.
But what do you think about
Carbon-free, by the way.
Carbon-free. Well, and I said that to somebody the other day. I said, if you want to go with that.
So it's interesting, Bettina. 2007, Jerry Connolly put forward a Cool Counties initiative with his board. I put forward a Cool Schools initiative that was passed as a declaration. So we have had this issue of climate dating back to 2000, earlier in the 2007, but it's not a new issue for Fairfax County. I respect the new initiatives that are being put forward by the board and the school system, but it's a continuation of policies and practices that the county and the school system have already been executing against.
Okay, so we've got about 49 seconds. Is there an issue I have missed or something that you think you definitely want to talk about for 10 seconds before we go out?
Just that this balance between development and protecting the neighborhoods is critically important to me. And and it was something I have focused on as a planning commissioner, and I will continue to focus on as a supervisor.
Okay, well, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, my website is philforsupervisor.com. Very easy. Please go. I have a lot of detail about my issues and what's important to me. Thanks so much.
All right, well, I appreciate you coming, and I was on your website, and it has a lot of information on it. So, grab something to drink and start reading, because you'll know who Phil is afterwards. Stay with us.
Your time is gonna come. Your time is gonna come. It's up to you to reach out to be that friend who comes along. Your day is gonna come.
When you make a friend, you make a difference.
Your day is gonna come.
Friendship, pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Good one, son.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing. Wow!
I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again. 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
What's it feel like when a woman's having a heart attack? Chest pain, like there's a ton of weight on your chest. Severe shortness of breath. Unexplained nausea. Cold sweats. There's an unusual tiredness and fatigue. There's unfamiliar dizziness or lightheadedness. Unusual pain in your back, neck, jaw, one or both arms, even your upper stomach are signs you're having a heart attack. Don't make excuses. Make the call to 911 immediately. Learn more at womenshealth.gov/heartattack.
Operation Wonder Park is a go!
There's nothing more powerful than imagination.
Honey, have you seen my cell phone?
But don't just imagine.
My park came to life?
Ooh, a plot twist.
Use STEM to build, create,
She did it.
and change the world.
Who's with me?
I'm more of a 2 feet on the ground kind of guy. It's gonna hurt tomorrow.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm Bettina Lawton, and I'm your host. And we're talking about elections, particularly the primary election. It is on June 11th this year. And I'm very pleased to have my next guest with me. His name is Walter Alcorn, and he has lived in the Fairfax County since the 1980s. He attended UVA for college, and following college, he worked in the Providence District Supervisor's office, where his environmental career began following the discovery, as many people will remember, of a large oil spill underneath Mantua and Stockbridge neighborhoods. It was horrendous. Along with his environmental career, Walter was very active in the community through 16 years on the Planning Commission, then the County Park Authority, and the PTSA president at Herndon High School. He received the Fairfax County 2011 Citizen of the Year Award from the Federation of Citizens Associations. He has coached several years of Little League Baseball, and he lives in Reston with his wife Christina and 2 kids, in theory, because one of them is not always home from college, so
that's right.
That's always a challenge. So you've had this terrific career. You are sort of an environmental advocate in your, as we would say, real job. And so why do you want to be the Hunter Mill supervisor?
Well, it's a good question. You're not the first person to ask me
I'm
that
sure
question.
I'm not.
There are really 2 reasons. First of all, this is probably the right time for me to run in terms of what's going on in the community. In Reston and outside of Reston, we have a lot of interest in land use issues, a lot of concern about growth, a lot of concern about infrastructure keeping up with growth. And as somebody who spent 16 years on the Planning Commission and also the Park Authority, this is something that I have a particular interest in. Beyond that, just on a personal level, it's something, public service has really been a part of my life growing up and then as an adult as well. This is really an opportunity for me to really push my energy and put my energy into something that gives back. I was able to do that in an appointed role in the Planning Commission and the Park Authority, but this is something that me and my family and I and others in my family have had this hankering for a long time.
So there's a diverse group of people running, some people who just moved into Hunter Mill within the last couple of years. A young man who I think is around 24, he just graduated from college, is running. You've got a lot of different people running. So why is it important? Is it important that you have somebody with experience? I mean, you've got all this experience doing land use, which is a big issue, particularly up in Reston where you live. Or do we really need all of this new ideas, new energy on the Board of Supervisors?
Well, certainly energy is good, and I'm all for bringing new energy. You know, one way or another, we're going to have a change on the Board of Supervisors for the Hunter Mill District. Kathy Hudgens, who's been our supervisor for the past 20 years, is retiring. Right. So we will see a change, maybe even a generational change one way or another once the election's over. But, you know, experience, I think, is important for 2 reasons. First of all, experience shows what you believe in. You know, what have you done in terms of what have you focused on? What are your accomplishments? What do you talk about in terms of your accomplishments? And that really gives you insight into your values in terms of what you would do actually if you get elected. And then, of course, experience also gives you an indication of your ability and what you can do, not just what you will do or want to do, right, but what you can do. So it's some of that is intuitive, but I think it's important, particularly in the Fairfax County context, to have someone with experience. You know, we have an annual budget of more than $7 billion that the Board of Supervisors approves every year, and you know, that's just one example of the governing responsibility that comes with being on the board. And I would also point out that we do have. It is a board of supervisors. It is not a. It is an environment where, to get anything significant done county-wide, you need 6 votes. And certainly experience in working with the political process, working with other supervisors, working with county staff in order to know what is possible and be able to implement that. I think that comes with experience as well.
Okay. What's the most important issue for Hunter Mill?
Well, I would say there are two most important issues.
Okay.
The first one that I'll mention is education, because this is, if you look at the county's budget, which I just mentioned, this is our top priority. And we have been able to fully fund the school system this year. This is something that we should do every year. Hopefully our economy stays healthy and our tax revenue keeps coming in as it has, and we'll be able to continue that. Fully funding the schools, I think, is the top priority for the Hunter Mill District. The second issue is growth, I would say. And I don't know, you could do 1, 2 either way, I suppose, depending on where you live in the district.
True.
We do have concerns expressed not only in Reston but outside of Reston about the pace of growth, concern about infrastructure keeping up, particularly as it relates to our road system and our school system. And this is really something I think it's important to really step back and take a look at the processes that are in place to manage growth and make sure that we use those processes to their fullest. One example, and something that I would want to see improved, is the process for citizens to engage on issues relating to growth, reviewing rezoning applications and the like, and decisions that come to the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. I want to make sure that citizens are fully engaged and that they have time to actually see the full case and read the proffers before they are asked to weigh in on a particular application. The other thing that I'll note, and this is Reston specific, at least at this point, we need to take another look at the comprehensive plan in Reston. There were 2 phases to that plan that came through several years ago. Phase 1 dealt with the transit station areas, so the areas right around the metro. Phase 2 dealt with the neighborhoods. The Phase 2 process, I think, left a few things hanging that need to we need to go back and take care of those. And then I'll just give you a couple of examples of that. One, our village centers. We need to look at the language in our Reston village centers, language in the comprehensive plan. We need to make sure that it's clear that if somebody comes forward and has a development plan, a significant redevelopment plan for our village centers, that there's a process in place, that it goes out to the community, and that it requires a special, I would say, an out-of-turn plan amendment for it to go forward. That's something that the language is a little shaky, a little squishy in the comprehensive plan. I think we need to clean that up. And then the other thing, and we've had a lot of discussion in Reston about this, population. So what should the population of Reston be? That's something that the zoning ordinance is really not very well equipped to deal with. So that's something else we need to look at for the comprehensive plan. And in particular, there are a number of different ways this could be done, but one way could be we look at different population levels of Reston, and then we use those as trigger points to see if the infrastructure is keeping up or not. So for example, when Reston hits 80,000 people or 90,000 people, how is the infrastructure doing? Are our roads keeping up? Is development actually proceeding the way that we expected it to be? How are our schools in terms of their capacity? How are we doing in terms of libraries, in terms of our fire folks and our police station? How are we serving the community with the infrastructure? So those are just a couple of the things that I think we can do when we take a look at the comprehensive plan again.
Okay, so unbridled growth is not your way.
No, I managed growth.
Managed growth.
Yes, and it's important too that Hunter Mill is a very diverse district in many ways. One way that it's diverse is in terms of land use. So I mentioned Reston, but Hunter Mill goes all the way to the edge of Tysons as well. So what's on the south and west side of Route 7 is in Hunter Mill. Then down to the town of Vienna, and the town of Vienna gets the fun of managing the growth issues in the town.
Yes, they do. Hot topic there, I'll tell you.
Yes, not the county, that's the town. And then coming back up towards Reston through part of Oakton, and then just south of the toll road and south of Herndon. So you have quite a bit of, you have different communities, you have commercial, you have residential, we have multifamily, we have single family detached. There's quite a range. And then of course in terms of who lives in those communities, we have a lot of diversity as well. And that's really our strength. You know, some people have stirred that up in mainly other parts of the country. But for us, and not just in Hunter Mill, but in Fairfax County overall, that's a strength for us to treasure and to build upon, because it really is something that makes our community much more dynamic and a place where a lot of us want to live.
So I take it that you are a supporter of this One Fairfax, which I understand is to promote diversity and do all of that within the county.
I am a supporter of that, and that is a significant policy. And I think one of the important components of that, or something that's important to understand about One Fairfax, it's not just a policy. It actually calls for change, for real change in the county in terms of reviewing decisions that are made a lot of times routinely and making them not so routine. So it's a different lens to look at budget decisions, planning decisions, the range of activities and decisions that the county makes. This is something that I think over the long term could have profound change and change really the system, if you will, in terms of bringing more people into the county government activities and frankly getting more input and participation and of course the good things that come along with that. That's something I think we're overdue in terms of bringing more of the community and different communities into the system.
So the other thing that has become an issue in Fairfax, at least among some people, is the whole environmental issues and the green initiatives and all the other things that are going on. So where do you stand on that? I mean, you're actually an environmental professional. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, it does. You know, we actually have done some things very well in Fairfax County. One of the things that was done when Jerry Connolly was chairman of the board, there was a goal set at 10% of the county land area should be parkland through the Fairfax County Park Authority. We're, I believe, at 9.67%.
Oh, wow,
so
almost there.
We're almost there. We're getting closer, but we do have a little more to go, even just to reach that goal. This is something, especially as we see more development in our transit station areas, we need to work even harder to preserve land outside of our transit station areas, particularly land that's environmentally sensitive and that's important for the environment.
Well, tell us how people can find you if they want to hook up with your campaign.
Well, go to my website. My website is walteralcorn.com, a very simple website. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and feel free to contact us.
Good.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's put a ride home.
Being a dad is an adventure full of special moments.
A cruise?
Surprise! Unexpected moments.
I got this.
And even awkward moments.
Okay, Dad, thank you.
But every moment you spend with your kids, even the smallest moments, can make the biggest impact on your child's life. So take a moment to be a dad today.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm Bettina Lawton, and I'm your host. And we're still talking the 2019 elections, and we're still talking primaries. We got a really big primary coming up on June 11th, hugely important for the county because it's to choose who's going to run as a Democrat for the county chair. So with me tonight is one of those candidates. It is Jeff McKay. He has served as the Lee District Supervisor for 11 years. He is a lifelong Fairfax County resident. He certainly currently chairs the board's two most important committees. I think most people think so. It's the Legislative Committee and the Budget Committee. And he serves on a number of regional councils committed to improving transit, helping our environment, and fighting for our shared values. Something many people don't think when they think about being a supervisor. There's a lot of regional stuff you have to do. He earned a BS in Public Administration from James Madison University. He lives in the Lee District with his wife, Crystal, and his daughter, Leanne, and his son, Aiden. So thank you for making time. I know you're running all over the county.
I am. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you've always lived in Fairfax. Have you always lived in the Lee District?
I have. I've lived my entire life in the Lee District, proudly.
All right. Okay. So you've got the Lee District is always one of those places that I think, because I always think the Springfield Mall is in Springfield, but that's Lee. And Lee goes all the way up to the Route 1 corridor.
Yes.
And you, okay.
Yes, it's a great district. I grew up on the Route 1 corridor side of the district, and so have a lot of life experiences about growing up in a part of the county that had some real economic challenges and proudly had some real diversity even when I was a kid going through our public schools. But the district also includes Springfield, as you mentioned. We have the Springfield Revitalization District, the Route 1 Revitalization District, and then in the middle, a real high growth area that is the third largest planned community in the county in Kingstown, Franconia area. And so I like to look at that district and say that we've tackled so many important issues that run the gamut from controlling growth and protecting people from huge increases in growth, and also bringing growth to parts of the county that need revitalization and high quality jobs. And so we've really moved the needle in Springfield in particular, and have rewritten an award-winning comprehensive plan for the Route 1 corridor that will set it up in the future for high success. And so it's a very diverse district. Has some special challenges that I've enjoyed tackling and representing people in that community, but proud to have called that home my entire life.
So when you say special challenges, what's going on down there? I mean, I go down the Route 1 corridor. When my kids were younger, they played basketball, and there was some place, travel basketball, they had to go to down there. And it was kind of bleak.
Yeah, some of the challenges, so we've made a lot of headway, but some of the challenges are really what inspire me to continue public service. I got into it initially and launched my first campaign in 2007 because I felt like some areas of the county weren't getting the kind of attention that they needed, and were underserved by county resources and support. And that's what we've been really trying to do since I've been in office. And so I remember launching my first campaign in 2007 talking about 2 Fairfaxes. And now I hear a lot of other people talking about that. And it's a really important topic because to be a successful county, all areas of the county have to succeed. We can't just put all of our eggs in one basket and say this is going to be the area of success in the county. Fairfax County is successful statistically in almost every imaginable category. But there are still people who aren't sharing in that success, and part of that is because the opportunities don't exist everywhere in the way I would like to see them. And so, I'm a strong supporter of equity in the county, framed by my own experiences is growing up on the Route 1 corridor. But some of the special challenges that existed down there when I took office, we've gotten rid of virtually all the blight that existed. We've revitalized Springfield Town Center, bought hundreds of millions of dollars of transportation improvements, revitalized our parks, brought an award-winning environmental project to Huntley Meadows Park, and I've worked fiercely to protect funding in our Fairfax County Public Schools, because that's really where the success of our residents starts, is a good public education system. And so I visit all those schools in my district. I spend a lot of time in our Title I schools. These are smart kids. These are kids who come from hardworking families and just need our support and help to be successful. And I think that's a fundamental that we need to stress and continue to work on in the county.
So the legislative committee, I mentioned that when we started. What is, people tell me it's important.
Yeah.
What does it do? I mean, and do you have success?
We do.
There's a lot of stuff that I hear people saying, oh, it's down in the General Assembly and it died.
Right.
So have we actually gotten anything
well,
through them lately?
It can be frustrating at
Yes,
times.
it can.
But it's a challenge we keep fighting at. I think it's really important for us as a county board to put out an agenda for Richmond and for Capitol Hill, because our legislative package includes our federal program, which is really important to a lot of our federal employees and really important to Fort Belvoir, our county's largest employer. But the fight in Richmond is real, and we enhance it and improve it because we take issues on important things that protect our community, whether it's non-discrimination for gender identity, fighting for environmental protections. I was just down testifying in this session, fighting for solar freedom legislation so that we can do better with our environment, fighting for public education and transit and public transportation dollars. We don't win every battle in Richmond, but we show up. And I think showing up is really important, and that's what our legislative committee has done. So we've influenced many things. Some have joked with me and said, when the General Assembly is in session, no one is safe. And I always respond back to them and say, but at least we're paying attention, and we know we're providing data for our legislators about how this is affecting their constituents. It's important. But the other reason it's important, and it's similar to the budget committee that I chair and why I'm running for chairman. When you have these committees that produce an annual document every year, and you have 10 different opinions on the Board of Supervisors, 10 different board members, collaborating with them and coming up with an agreed upon agenda isn't always easy. But it's really important work for us to do in the county to bring our board together, to work together on solutions on behalf of our constituents. The legislative committee every year produces an annual document. The budget every year gets passed by our board. And the role that I've played is bringing our board members together for a common agenda on those really important things for our citizens.
Well, that's something that I think is going to be important coming up, because there's going to be such a turnover on the board this year. This is huge with the retirements going on, as well as the challenge going on in the Springfield district for the first time since I can remember. So this is really going to be potentially a very tumultuous year.
It is. It's very exciting for me from two aspects. One, when I was elected to the county board, I was 32 years old, and people looked at me like, are you old enough to be on the board?
Right, exactly.
And I brought a perspective to the board that really wasn't there. Two working parents, raising our kids in Fairfax County, some challenges that not everyone on the board really lived the way I did. So it's important to have the perspective and the diversity. But I also think moving forward, it's really important for us to recognize Fairfax County is a great place to live. It's strong in almost every statistical category, but we can always improve. And we never stop our progress. But it is really going to be vital for the next chairman to have the leadership capabilities, the background, to bring people together the way I have with our legislative and budget committee, because you're going to have a lot of different perspectives. And in order for those perspectives to go from an opinion to success, is going to need someone to help navigate those through the process. The county's complicated. The political differences that exist on our board, those take working out sometimes. And I've been doing that really for the last 11 years on the board. And I think the important role of chairman is probably never more important than it is right now because of that turnover. So let's channel that excitement, temper it with the right experience that I bring to the table, and continue to make progress for our residents.
Well, you just recently introduced with some of the other supervisors the Fairfax Green initiatives, which I keep asking everybody about. So I guess I can't ask you if you support it since it was one of your initiatives. But what led you to decide that you wanted to do that? People keep talking about, well, Jerry Connolly did something in 07 and there was something else. What's going to make this different?
Well, we have done a lot of things, so I want to acknowledge that on the front end. We did pass a stormwater tax that has played a major role in cleaning up our streams and water quality in Fairfax County. But what really got me on this now is that the federal government has abandoned us on environmental protections, on many things. But in particular on the environment, the message is you're on your own. You know, we used to be able to rely on getting a lot of help from federal agencies, the EPA and others, and we would manage our environmental programs and build green buildings and do the things that we should do as a county. But now what's happened is we can't just focus on what the county does, and we can't rely on the federal government at this point in time in our history for any support. And at the state level, there's so many challenges. I mentioned solar freedom, where we're restricted from doing the right thing for the environment. So we need to step up our game. We need to advocate at the state level for things that allow us to be even more environmentally friendly. But we can't sit back and rely on any help from anyone else anymore. We're on our own. And for us as a county to set an example for the rest of the Commonwealth, the rest of the country on green initiatives, I would love for Fairfax County to be, you know, when that paragraph is written about our enormous economic success in human services and job growth, that there's another sentence in there about being a leader on environmental protection when we need it most. This is a moral issue. It's a fundamental issue. It's an economic issue. But more importantly, you know, the future of other generations. I have small kids in the county, and when I see the number of kids in our schools that have respiratory challenges and other things related to air quality, clean water, these are things that truly can be life and death for some people in the long run. And so the sense of urgency is there. The reliance on us for assistance on others is not. So we have to do this.
Well, that's the thing that gets me is when they start saying, well, you've got 12 years to do it or it's too late. And you're like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
You know, that snuck up on us and all of a sudden this is like a major, major deal.
Yeah.
What about, in our last minute or so, about the jobs and getting more employers in and around the county? I mean, you talked about the unevenness around the county.
It's a real problem. It's an affordable housing challenge too, because we need quality employment all over the county. We need affordable housing near that quality employment. Let's cut people's commutes. We were just talking about the environment. A big part of solving our environmental challenge is that. And so we lead the country in a lot of ways. Unemployment rate is very low, but we can always do more and bring more jobs into the county. And that's something I've done in my district and I'm proud of, and we need to continue to improve in the entire county on doing that.
Okay. Well, in the last 15 seconds or so, how can people get in touch with your campaign if they want to know more about Jeff McKay?
So I would love for people to go to our webpage, McKayforChairman.com, follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We're literally available 24/7 and always look forward to hearing from people. Thank you.
Okay. Terrific.